How are you, everyone? Thank you for coming and being part of this webinar. This is webinar number 3 for us. We're hoping to do one every 2 weeks. The first 2 were on 5G. Today's webinar is about how our products work and our product range. In the last 2 webinars, there were a lot of people asking questions, like coming in from the side through the chat, about the products, and I was more inclined to talk about 5G and all the dynamics around that rather than pushing the products. However, people have been stamping their feet up and down saying, no, we want to hear more about what we've got and what we can do. So I'll start. We won't do the whole product range today. We're only going to go for 3/4 of an hour. I'll do a handful of products today and we'll go through them all one by one. And I'll really just sort of start with the Geocleanse. The glare doesn't get you, or if it's upside down, which is really our flagship product, which I developed back in 2004 and looked nothing like it is now. And why I developed it was, as an intuitive building biologist, I needed something in my consultancy work that plugged into a power point that sent the frequency directly through the electrical wiring to neutralize all of the electrical appliances we had back then, which is really no different to now, and to have a beneficial effect against Earth radiation. And the original Geocleanse was a black box. It looked nothing like it is now, and the programming of it was nothing compared to now. Although, you know, we have a lot of people get lots and lots of questions from people asking about, if I've got a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old Geocleanse, will it be okay for 5G? And the answer is yes, it will be. And how that happens is that, just going back on the whole 5G thing, 5G is installed in your LED streetlights. Whether it be underground power or above ground power, it doesn't really matter. The Geocleanse, because it works by sending the negative charge frequency through the wiring to the meter box and through all the other circuits, then into the ground via the earth wire, also sends the charge back to the nearest power pole, whether it be underground power or above ground power. And what we've always known with the Geocleanse is that, especially easier measured and detected with above ground power, is that when that charge gets to the power pole, it then has a balancing or harmonizing effect on the electrical radiation from the electrical power lines for 50 meters in either direction up and down the street. Well, considering that 5G is going to be running virtually off the same power supply as our houses, the Geocleanse feeding that frequency back will actually neutralize the antennas. Also, the fact that the 5G creates that charge going through the ground, that electrical resistance, which comes up out of the ground, the Geocleanse, because it has the earth pin energizing the earth wire, takes that into the ground, which neutralizes Earth radiation, will also neutralize that charge coming out of the ground with 5G. The resin block component of the Geocleanse, which some evil skeptics call just a block of plastic, it's not. It's actually a man-made crystal, and there's a lot of my own science and technology in that, which we don't blurt out all over the world how we do it. We keep that to ourselves. That's actually a man-made crystal, and it's also like a computer chip. During its manufacturing, it goes through a process. It's not me standing there doing Reiki or anything like that. So some people think, no, it's a process I've developed many years ago, and it's programmed, and that's a knowledge base which I developed over the years, and then able to change the programming as we see fit. A good example of that would be, about 4 years ago, we became really well aware of what occurs in houses radiation-wise when we have very high solar winds. They would be wind speeds of, say, 500-600 kilometres per second. And they come from sunspots on the sun when they're directly facing the Earth. And there's a website called spaceweather.com, which is my favourite website, which I look at every morning to assess what's coming from the sun. However, what happens when we have a high solar wind is you get a radiation charge coming out of the ground because of the increased electrical resistance in the Earth's core. And I can tell just by scanning outside what's going on planetary anyway. So that upgrade was made 4 years ago. So I say to people who may have a 10-year-old Geoclense, it's still fine, it'll still do everything, it'll still do your 5G. It's just not programmed to neutralise the radiation charge coming out of the ground when we have a high solar wind. Even though it may be similar dynamic to what occurs with 5G, it's actually a bit different. I make the Geocleanse for every country power point in the world. We have been doing that for many, many years because we've been selling it all over the world. We have an English distributor who's doing quite well over there at the moment because there's some awareness of COVID-19 in connection to 5G, whether you believe it or not, it depends on who you listen to, is rife worldwide. Okay, second product I'll talk about will be Stellardome. Well, there's a bit of it. Oh, there we go. Didn't get upside down. Fantastic. Okay, that's Stellardome, and it's my favourite little product to play with. I love just touching this. It's amazing. I had a client last year who bought 10 of them, and he owned a series of factories and employed 40 or 50 people, and he wanted them for all of his factories. And he rang me one day and he said, "Oh, why is it I feel so good when I've got my Stellardome in my pocket?" He said it's not for all the wrong reasons either. It was quite funny. Okay, the Stellardome was developed about January last year. It was a redevelopment of an older product called the Space Clearing Dome. And a little bit of the story to it. Leanne and I were sitting around in the backyard where we were living this time last year on a Sunday afternoon, enjoying a wine and a beer late in the afternoon. I think I'd been windsurfing or something. And we were quite relaxed. And Leanne said, "Oh, no, I said, I want to dump the dome. I don't want it in the range anymore. It didn't do a lot compared to the Geocleanse, and it was a problem to make." And she said, no, don't do that. Use your brain and my intuitive skills to actually make it perform better. I thought, oh, okay. And I had some ideas in the back of my head from some things we did probably 10 years ago, which we never followed through with. So I worked on a number of changes. One was a new mold, a new resin, a new program. And this new program, I don't talk about a lot, but it was to do with neutralising a type of radiation we actually only found at airports, which was really, really strange. And maybe a later webinar I'll elaborate on that. So we added that program in, but it also went into all the products anyway. And we put this bottom on the Stellardome, which is the reflective bottom with the torus. And the torus, to some people, may only look like an image, but the torus is actually an energy generator, but it needs an energy behind it to amplify it to do something properly. And so when we finished producing our first prototypes and we had them ready to play with, what we were looking for was how far across a property will the new Stellardome work. We know the Geocleanse works to the boundaries of the properties and can sometimes work to covering your neighbours either side in some cases, depending on how close their earth wire is to your earth wire. But with the Stellardome, we wanted to see if it would do the same across the block we were living in, which was probably about 1,200 square metres. And with the first testing, it did that, not a problem at all. We're quite surprised about that. Then we took the Stellardome to Sydney to Mind, Body, Spirit. And Leanne had one in her handbag, and we noticed that when we got to the airport, it created a huge clear space around the airport. When we got to our accommodation, which was in Darling Square, which was an 8-storey motel, Leanne pulled her Stellardome out of her handbag and put it on the ground, which was one way to use it. She went off up the road to, I think, to get me some beer it was, or get some supplies or something. I went downstairs and had a drink in the bar, as you do. And while I was there, I was thinking, we were up on the 6th level, that dome's on the 6th level. I can actually feel it having an effect downstairs on the ground level. So I pulled my phone out, and with Google Earth, I read the building with Google Earth with the phone, and realised, okay, it's actually covered the whole building. And that was a real surprise, because we knew that the Geoclense did it by the fact that it was plugged into the power point and working through the wiring. The Stellardome was doing it without actually having to work through the wiring, which was fantastic. But it sort of opened up, in a sense, what you'd call new markets, so to speak, in that it's that powerful that those really, really super sensitive people, when they go out and about, were looking for something really, really powerful. The dome was great for them because they could just put it in their pocket, or a lot of women who tend to be more electro-hypersensitive than men would put them in their handbags and they wouldn't have to worry. School children, a lot of, like I wrote a blog last year on how dangerous the energy is in every school. No wonder school kids come home at the end of the day saying, I don't want to go back there again, or you know, I got bullied by a kid who's normally nice when he's not at school, and that is the radiation charges in schools have a big effect on people's hormones and their neurotransmitters, and their happy hormones and neurotransmitters just go out the door and they turn from nice to pretty ugly. And that's partially probably one reason why that occurs. So for school children, it became great because they had it in the bottom of their backpack. When they got to school, it had a huge effect across the whole school. We did some testing in schools also. Internationally, like in Germany, we sometimes had issues with supplying geoclenses into Germany because it doesn't have a CE number, it doesn't need one, it doesn't have a circuit in it. But the German authorities really didn't get that. Well, the Stellardome will do the same as the Geocleanse, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. It doesn't plug into a power point. Then, you know, as time moved through last year, we went from summer into winter, especially in Melbourne. People's awareness started to shift more around the moles in houses, and our awareness began to shift that way too. And we started to understand that there were a lot of houses that actually had mold in their roof cavities, and we've written a blog about this recently. It was actually really funny. Bronnie, our office manager, had just moved into a new house, and it was an older house with a flat roof. And she had a Geocleanse in there, and she came into work one day and she said, something's just not quite right. I said, okay. I said, why don't you just take a Stellardome home and try that? And she came back going, wow, it fixed up whatever the problem was. I later visited the house and found that actually she had a mold problem in her roof cavity. And that usually occurs, okay, one from a leaking roof, but mainly a lot of houses have exhaust fans in their bathrooms where the steam from when you have a shower or a bath goes straight up into the roof cavity and accumulates over a period of time. And a roof cavity or a pitched roof has the same shape basically as the underside of a pyramid. And I know my plutonic solids and shapes and have been aware of what different things to do for many, many years. And that's why we do a dome and we don't do a pyramid. Like pyramid harmonizers don't work at all. Like I get a few people ask me about shungite pyramids. I go, no, don't waste your money. You know, anything that's black doesn't do a good job. And there's some dodgy so-called science out there claiming that shungite works really well, and you can never get it to work. It's actually not correct. Not having a go at it, but this is a real fact. So getting back to the roof cavity, it's like the underside of a pyramid. It projects a noxious charge downwards. The mold creates a radiation charge. People don't know that. They're not aware of that. So that charge is projected down into the living space. The dome, with its dome shape, creates a radiance that goes upwards. And that radiance neutralises the charge coming down from the mold. And I think I spoke about this in the last webinar, where we had a woman who said to me, every time I go to my mother's place and she's got a Geocleanse, I can feel the Wi-Fi. And I said, no, it's not the Wi-Fi. And I checked the mother's place on Google Earth and I said, there's mold in the roof cavity. She took a dome there. She bought a dome. She took it there, came back going, wow, I can't feel the Wi-Fi anymore. But it wasn't. It was a mold in the roof cavity. She just wasn't awareness around it, because There is no awareness around these things. The torus, if you have it facing down, but it really doesn't really matter because we've tested the dome in a handbag when it's on its side, but I like to have it on the ground or on a table. That sends an energy down into the ground. That helps that charge to spread to the earth wire. So the earth wire takes it back in through the meter box and through the electrical system, similar to a Geocleanse. And we've tested that. But you've also got the radiance going out at the same time. And houses that have a radiance are like houses that sit on ley lines, which I spoke about last week, which are earth energy lines, which are very beautiful, very powerful. If you have a house on a ley line, your energetics are going to be great. If you maintain your ley line energy with the dome, it'll even be better, or the Geoclense. But if you're not on a ley line, the dome will create the same type of radiance. Okay, that's our Stellardome. Next thing we'll move on to is our mobile phone harmonizer. Get rid of the glare. And mobile phone harmonizers are something that I've been making for many, many, many years. Probably before I started manufacturing the Geocleanse. And before the Geocleanse, in my consultancy work, I used to make a round orgonium disc, which was actually made from, way back then, it was made from a hummus container, which was really funny, but the shape was good. Not like we do now with professional molds. And I'd put the discs around a house to balance the energy. But way back then, we had mobile phones, even though we're only that big compared to that big, and they're always a danger. And there was a huge awareness around what mobile phones back around 1999 to 1998, and the radiation levels, because Charlie Tan has been talking about it, I think, ever since then too. And the WHO eventually came out saying, oh, guess what, radiation is harmful. And my original mobile phone harmonizers were actually a little resin bowl that stuck onto the back of the phone. They were really good, and we had a lot of health practitioners like kinesiologists and bioresonance practitioners and chiropractors who practice kinesiology. A lot of those practitioners who are able to test someone for radiation, how they're being affected for radiation, they are actually able to also test to see whether a radiation harmonizer was working. And we got great results with all those practitioners. We still do now too, but that was back in 1999. Eventually smartphones came out, and with the advent of, here's my phone with a blue cover that wraps around the back, the bulb went out the door. And so I had to produce a flat phone harmonizer, and I didn't have the technology, but it was really funny. I was given an order from a couple of Australian girls who had a network marketing company going in Bali called Kaching. There's a little bit of history here. And they had secured a supply of 2,000 phone harmonizers from a company in Adelaide, which this type I've tested and didn't work. This company had left them in the lurch and said they can't supply them anymore. So these people came to me and said, can you supply 1,000 phone harmonizers that had to be virtually flat for the Balinese market? So I had to get off my backside and on my bike and develop the flat phone harmonizer technology, and we did. It was great. So that's what we've got now with the current model. How we use the phone harmonizer is that we just slot it into behind the phone, between the back of the cover and the phone. And how does a mobile phone harmonizer work? Well, we all know that mobile phones create a radiation field around us, and if you do that to your head, it's even worse than even holding in your hand. However, if you're just holding the phone in your hand, not even when you're in call, you're going to be under radiation stress. The harmonizer produces a negative charge. It's like a flat crystal, as some people like to call it. Your mobile phone produces a positive charge, which is a harmful component of the radiation from the radio frequency. One neutralizes the other, so it's just a frequency game. And in the end, what you get is a phone that does not cause or create any radiation stress on the brain because it also neutralises the thermal effect. We've tested that. And it also neutralises the phone, stop the phone from having a debilitating effect on our meridian systems, because our meridians are what are affected first before our organs are affected. And as we know, our meridians, a lot of our meridians have endpoints at the organs, and they're feeding energy to the organ. So if your meridian energy is being interfered with by radiation, then the organ is going to be interfered with. And that's what they call radiation stress. The phone harmonizer can be used on any type of phone. We don't make them specifically for anything. It can be used on laptops, iPads, tablets, you name it. You can put them on anything you like. Some people like to say to me, I'll put them on my TV. Say, no, don't put them on the TV because the Geocleanse covers the TV, so don't worry about that. Phone harmonizers, to me, with my testing, also suggest that they are more powerful and more effective than radiation blocking screens for mobile phones. I wrote a blog about that recently, and that blog had to come because there were so many people over the years contacting me saying, I've got this cover, I've got that cover, will it protect me? And I try to be honest, and I don't like to ditch anything else because everyone else is trying to make an effort the best they can. But I tested a lot of the phone blocky pouches and they didn't do anything. They may have reduced your radio frequency meter readings, but we don't test with radio frequency meters. We test a harmonizer against the source of radiation with a real person. And that's where the bioresonance, the kinesiology, the biotensor, the electron antenna, all these other methods of testing are quite effective. Okay, next thing I'll talk about is the watch harmonizer. It's a tiny little version, get the right way around, version of the phone harmonizer, same technology. And I developed the watch harmonizer about 5 years ago, and it actually sat on the shelf. It didn't do anything. It wasn't marketed, it wasn't packed or anything, because I was waiting for the iWatch to come out. But it didn't come out when I thought it was coming out. It got delayed. But in the meantime, what started to sneak into the marketplace were our Fitbits, or our, so I can't mention the brand, but personal trackers, which are great things. A lot of people get huge benefit from them. However, wearing a Fitbit, a tracker on your wrist, what it does is it generally shuts down your central meridian and other meridians in the body. And when I read people who were wearing personal trackers, one thing that became glaringly obvious that was that they were putting a lot of stress on the thyroid and the triple warmer, which is your hormone meridian. You can't have that. So the watch harmonizer on the trackers is absolutely fantastic. For sure, an iWatch or any of these other smartwatch technologies will do the same thing, having an effect on your central meridian and your thyroid. And the watch harmonizer works extremely well with them too. Some people have come to me going, oh, can I put my watch harmonizer on my AirPods, which are the Bluetooth wireless earphones, which are becoming extremely popular these days. But no, if you've got a mobile phone harmonizer on your phone, it will neutralize the AirPods. So what happens with an AirPod is that it connects Bluetooth to your phone. We all know that it's not rocket science. But what happens is that an energy beam from the phone goes to each one of the AirPods. And that has a charge to it. And that charge puts the body, especially the brain, under a lot of electromagnetic stress. So the phone harmonizer on the phone, because it's neutralizing the phone, neutralizes that beam going to the AirPods, which then in turn neutralizes the AirPods. This is something we've known for a while because in-ear style Bluetooth pieces have been around a long time. We've tested a long time ago, but we followed up that testing again with AirPods about 4 months ago, just to make damn sure that we knew what was going on and we can put people at ease, especially mothers with teenagers or children wanting to get the latest and greatest. And there's nothing that some people think is cooler than walking down the street with two little white things hanging out your ears. So it's been a real benefit for that too. Okay, next product we'll talk about will be Pendants, Orgone pendants. Now the Orgone pendants, we've been also making these for a long time. I started producing these before the Geocleanse in the very early days, because in my consulting work, people were asking about protection when they're out and about and protection for their phones. So that's why we're doing the phone harmonizers. And over the years, we've developed a range of pendants. So we've got orange, or if you can see that, pink without the glare. I'm getting good at this. Blue, green, purple, and white. And there's a reason for this, and that is that radiation has a different effect on different people in different ways. Although you might get a group of 100 people together, and out of the 100 people, 40 will be all affected the same way, and another 30 the other same way, and whatever. But radiation tends to have an effect, as we said, on our meridians, that will also have a greater effect on our weakest meridian. And we all have what I call junk DNA. It's issues to do with our vital organs, which generally come from our parents, as handed down the line. It's a hereditary thing. So mine's thyroid, Leanne's is large intestine, someone else might be spleen, someone else might be heart, someone else might be liver, and so on. So it's not the same for everyone. So when your major meridian energy goes down, you get a hole in your biofield in front of you, and that hole in the biofield allows more charge to have an effect on more meridians in the body, so you're under EMF stress. And so what we worked out many years ago was, instead of just having one colour pendant, what we found was if you had the right colour pendant to match your weakest link, so to speak, it will do a far better job of, one, improving the meridian energy of the weaker meridian, and also it will seal the biofield up. And our biofield extends out probably as far as our hands can reach. And it has a negative charge, because all of our organs, when we're healthy, operate at a negative charge level, because the meridian system runs at a negative charge frequency also, although they may be slightly different frequencies. And I know that with bioresonance, with my own equipment, we have got different meridian balancing programs which have different frequencies. So what we came up with was, in the end, if your weakest link is liver, green is the best colour. If your weakest link is thyroid, and this is a no-brainer, it stands to reason, blue is the best colour. If your weakest link is heart, pink or white are equally as good for each other. We have a lot of people calling us, contacting us, saying, hey, can you select the pendant colours for my whole family? And what I get people to do, and you can all do this if you want, is email me or text me, best email, a photo of each family member, and I can tune in and I can read which colour pendant is correct for which of the family members that you have. And it can be quite funny, because you might have a father whose weakness might be heart, and the mother might be large intestine, and you might have 4 children, and 2 maybe have heart meridian weaknesses, and 2 may have large intestine meridians. That's the hereditary thing coming through. So if I suggest to a male or a bloke that he needs a pink or a white pendant, I definitely don't say white for the bloke. I'll go, sorry, pink. I'll go white. I won't embarrass them. Us blokes can be a little bit tender sometimes. And sorry, the large intestine or stomach or small intestine is orange, and same goes for lower areas, so to speak. Purple is spleen, which is really interesting. So if you wear the right colour pendant to match your weakness, then you'll get the best out of the pendant, and that becomes your out and about protection, because it's basically boosting your biofield so that your biofield has a strong negative charge. Radiation has a positive charge. One neutralises the other, so as to prevent the radiation stress having effect on your meridians and then your organs. Okay, next thing we'll talk about is, when we're talking personal protection, another popular product and we've had this for a long time, is the band, which is just a basic silicon wristband which has been energized through a process. And the band didn't come about out of a need in the beginning. The band came around because 10 years ago, when the power balance wristband, which was a silicon wristband, hit the market, a lot of the health practitioners we were dealing with, especially kinesiologists and bioresonance practitioners, were saying, hey, I've got my clients buying the the power belt, sorry, because it's the latest and greatest and everyone's got one, and by the claims made. And these practitioners were testing their clients and finding that the power balance was actually doing the opposite to what they claimed. They were really dangerous. Like when they came out, I was rolling on the floor laughing my head off going, it won't take long until someone wakes up, and eventually skeptics crawled all over them, then the ACCC, then the TGA, and it was all over for them because they couldn't back what they were saying. So the band came around due to demand from health practitioners, and it was, you know, something wasn't hard for us to enact, but we didn't sell many at first because anyone that saw an band would instantly associate it with the power balance and go, no. I do know also there are a lot of knockoffs of silicon wristbands on the market around the world which make claims that they produce negative ion, and there are photos of them on the internet with a negative ion reader sitting right next to the band. I can tell you what those other bands I've seen on the market, I've tested them, they don't produce negative ion. I don't know what's going on with their meter reading, but it's not correct. It's a little bit fraudulent, if you ask me. It's a bit like a scalar company in China selling their phone harmonizers using a trifield meter to show a drop in the reading, and that's impossible. I've tried that with that product. There's something going on, so be careful. Bands are great. I broke my arm here about 2 weeks after moving in last year. I fell down 7 stairs and broke it in 5 places. A few people know that. And part of my pain management and recovery from that left arm was to wear an band constantly on the arm. Like, we're not allowed to make claims about pain whatsoever. It's, you know, only Big Pharma can do that. But it was just something I noticed when I was wearing the band. And also, in a sense, it's a great alternative to the pendant. Like, I had a woman on the phone this morning from Queensland who was saying, you know, my children, when they go to school, they can't wear a pendant because the schools have got laws or rules saying you can't wear any jewellery, but get a large band, slip it around your ankle, put your sock over the top, and no one will ever know. And that's become quite popular. And also the fact that we have a lot of meridians running through our hands and other energy channels, and with the band running around the wrist, it's a great way of covering virtually all of your meridians and doing the same thing as selecting the right pendant. So good on band. With this latest rush with the COVID-19 and 5G thing going on, you know, there's a huge rush on bands. We actually ran out for a short period of time. So if you wait a little bit of time, you'll get them now. They're all in stock and all going again. We don't have any harmony wear. Another thing I was going to talk about is the harmony wear, which is the bracelets and the glass pendants. I didn't get to bring some over from the factory. They're really good too. I just say to people, the harmony wear, they are made out of glass and metal findings. Don't wear them all the time because eventually you'll catch on something and you'll drop it. They're designed to do the same thing as a colour pendant. The glass is a really great amplifier of the negative charge. They're great evening pieces, but don't wear them to bed and don't wear them in the shower, and don't play cricket or football or go sailing or surfing with one because it'll just fall apart. Okay, last product we'll talk about today is the Insoles. These came around from testing other products on the market many years ago, which claimed that they were energizing the body through the reflexology points on the underside of the feet. And when I tested them, they were actually doing damage. They weren't actually benefiting whatsoever. And it was my initiative to produce the Insoles, And all they are, and some people say, oh, but they're just insoles with a label on them. Yeah, they're insoles with a label on them. We don't make the insoles ourselves, but we do the energising process ourselves. And it's the same programming and frequencies what we use for the pendants and the inner bands. They're great because when you're wearing them, they do offer you EMF protection by boosting your meridians by stimulating the reflexology points on the underside of your feet and your toes. We had some amazing testimonials from people over the years. One particular bloke who works in Bunnings is on his feet all day long, and for sure he gets a cushioning effect of the insole on the foot in the shoe. But he just says he feels great all the time. Every time I go into Bunnings, he's like, oh, have a look at this. Okay, now we've got some questions. Which I'll just answer now, and we'll finish off at 1:15. Someone asking regarding the difference between the Geocleanse and Stellardome. They both do the same thing. They're for slightly different environments. If you've got the mould in the roof cavity, then the Stellardome's great. If you don't, the Stellardome's still good, but if you don't have the mould in the roof cavity, well, the Geocleanse is equally as good. Another question here from a Kate. This is about 5G, but I'll answer 5G questions. That's not a problem. This is a really interesting question. Asking about the charge of the water in our reservoirs. Will the Stellardome change the charge back to negative charge? Yes, it will. And the Geocleanse will do that. That's one of the little hidden benefits I've always known of with the Geocleanse for many, many years, because of part of the programming to deal with underground water in fissures, water in sewer pipes that may run under your house, or grey water lines, really dangerous energy fields over them. And our water supply into our houses has a positive charge because it's it's running through a pipe. And in really old houses, your earth wires attached to the water pipe, which is earthing into the ground. They don't do that anymore. So yes, the Stellardome and the Geocleanse will help with the infusing the negative charge into the water, your drinking water, or you don't drink your tap water, sorry. We know that, we've known that for a long time. Another question, does the harmonizer work for Apple Watch? Yes, it does, not a problem. Okay, someone asking about mobile phone harmonizers, what happens when we change phones? With the phone harmonizer, even though it's adhesive backed, I have a director over here, I say don't stick them on. The adhesive I use when I make the phone harmonizer is so strong, you'll bust your nails and get frustrated trying to get off the back of your phone. Just slip it between the back of the phone and the cover. So when you change your phone over, you take it out of one and put it into the next. I don't have a crystal ball that tells me how phone technology is going to change in the future, but what we're using now with the current smartphone platform where they're flat with a cover around the back, I think that'll be around for a few years. Okay. Wendy asking about cabin disc. Okay, still a cabin disc. We'll cover that next week. She's got one of the older cabin discs, which was a hexagonal shape. They worked really well. Like, we did a lot of testing, a lot of flying in not only commercial jets, in light aircraft too. I come from an aviation family that goes back 40, 50 years in Melbourne, and was fortunate enough to learn to fly light aircraft in 1990. Was always aware of the radiation dangers of what goes in a light aircraft, and our first testing of the cabin disc was actually in a Cherokee 160. Then we tested it in Boeings and things like that, and the cabin disc works up and down the whole cabin. The newer Stellar cabin disc is phenomenal. It's just unbelievable. Someone asking about Harmony Wear pendant she bought in 2015. It's still fully functional. Our products don't lose their charge, which actually comes to a bit of a point. I see some phone harmonizers made in America, or probably China. Nothing against the Chinese, they make great products. I sound like Donald Trump in a minute there. Anyway, that they claim that the harmonizers run out, they stop working after 2 years. And I've tested those harmonizers, and guess what? none of them worked in the very beginning. So if you hear someone saying, oh, they run out, don't go near it. A good harmonizer will last forever, and ours last forever. Someone asking what's the best thing to go out walking, I reckon still say Stellardome in your pocket. The pendants work really, really good, don't get me wrong, but the greater the field around you, you neutralise, the more pleasant feels, more blissful things tend to feel. This woman's saying she's prone to picking up on other people's energies and soaking them up like a sponge. Products will help with that, but there's something else going on with the person when that happens. And that's a long story, and I'll go into it another time. It might have something to do with viruses or other things going on in the body, which has reduced their biofield to a point that their biofield has the polarity is flipped, and instead of your biofield having a negative charge, it has a positive charge. And you know, I know for a fact that happened to me a few years ago when I had Ross River fever, and I was fascinated by it. Because I remember being in a building with a Geoclense, and I knew the energy was great. I'm going, wow, this feels terrible because I'm feeling myself, not the building's energy, because my biofield was up, totally inverted because of the virus I had, thanks to the mosquitoes. Someone asking wearing a pendant, an anaband, and Insoles is an overkill. It's not. It's just not really required. You don't need to wear all that much in one hit. Just one of them's fine. Like wearing 3 or 4 things that are beneficial isn't going to create an accumulative effect in that sense. The first one's going to neutralise, the others are just going to fall into place. Okay, there are all the questions. I don't know if Leanne's got a question or someone else. Yeah, I've been through the general questions. My director over here. Leanne wanted me to talk about competitors. I've spoken about that a little bit before with the Shungite. And a lot of people ask us about scalar products, and all I can say is with a harmonizer, how you test it, if you do an audit in a space for the different types of radiation fields, then you put someone in that radiation field, then you apply the harmonizer, and what you're supposed to happen is that the meridians come out of radiation stress and those fields become balanced, because that's something that can be perceived with different equipment. When someone makes a product and says, oh, you can't feel it, there's no effect on balancing the radiation fields, but it'll boost your immune system. Just be careful, because how can that be if the immune meridian is still under radiation stress, even though something else is sending out a wave? I don't get it. I'm not trying to be picking on anything or anyone, but there are a number of different scalar products been on the market for 15 years from all over the world, and I've tested lots of them. And I'm not talking about negative ion generators either. Negative ion generators are great. I've always liked them. Just that a Geocleanse in a house does the same as what a negative ion generator will do over the entire house, whereas an $800 negative ion generator, and there's some great ones on the market, may only have an effect on 20 or 30 square metres at the most. And the last question that's come up is the difference between what we do and Orgone. We have the name Orgone Effects Australia because in the very, very beginning, I did play with some Orgone 20-something years ago, and even though my intuitive skills and my sensitivity wasn't developed to a point where it is now, I found straight away that the Orgone had hairs all over it. It wasn't just the stuff I was making, it was everyone's I looked at and touched. So I changed, and I also had it tested by different health practitioners. And I remember one guy in Melbourne testing what Orgone pyramid I made, and took it to him in his clinic he was working out of in Ormond, and he picked it up as if it was a dirty, smelly rag and took it and put it outside the building. He just couldn't stand it. Then I got it straight away. Okay, I was feeling something, and someone independent who's a health practitioner picked up exactly the same thing. So I changed my formulation and my process to what we call Orgonium, which we have a trademark on, and it's a process rather than the ingredients. And we had a lot of people coming to us saying, oh, you were making fake Orgonite because there's no metal filings or coils or stuff like that in there. I'm going, no, there's none, because they all detracted from what was supposed to be happening. my knowledge of frequencies and frequency infusion became a process rather than the ingredients, and how they work, whether it be a dome or plugged into a power point or on your phone or on your body, was utilising the energetics to work in different ways. So we're not organised. We don't make things like that, and would never, ever again. So that's about the end of today. Another question's coming in about, this is a late question regarding the difference between shielding and harmonising, and I'll stretch this another couple of minutes because this is actually really important, and there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. What we do is we neutralise the charged fields, the positive charge fields, the fields which cause the EMF stress in the body. So the closer you are to, say, the source of radio frequency, like, for example, if you were within 50 metres of a mobile phone tower, you have a charge from close proximity to the source of the radiation. But if you move 200 metres away from a mobile phone tower, you'll have a wave. And the shielding products neutralise, or sorry, block the wave coming into a house, like the pouches, but they do nothing for the charge. And this is what I've known for a long time. And some of the shielding people try to bag us, saying, oh yeah, but your harmonizers don't pass our testing with EMF meters. No, a harmonizer won't. That's why I say when you see someone trying to sell a harmonizer using an EMF meter, you know that there's something dodgy going on in the background because it's bad science. But the harmonizers neutralize to a negative charge, which is in sympathy with the human body, the dangerous fields. The shielding materials don't actually do that. For example, in Melbourne, what became very popular with some people, especially after smart meters came out, and the fear around smart meters, which was actually created by the shielding people, because they could put shielding paint, which is toxic black metal-filled paint, on your wall to stop the charge coming through your wall from your meter box or your smart meter. The shielding may reduce the readings, but it actually didn't stop the charge. So when you tested the shielding paint and against a person, against what comes through from your meter box on the other side of the wall, the person was still under radiation stress. Plug the Geocleanse in, because it's working back through to the meter box and neutralising the charge, then the person comes out of radiation stress. So thank you for attending. We had 44 people. That's really good. I really do appreciate for your time for coming along, what we call Poets Day, so we can all knock off early on a Friday afternoon. We're hoping to do another one in 2 weeks' time. We haven't, Leanne's saying part B. Okay, we'll do a part B, and we'll answer more of your questions, and ones that maybe we didn't get a chance to answer. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you.